Got locked out of my bank account once after a bender. Tried the wrong PIN a bunch of times and couldn't get in. I spent the entire next day on the phone with the banks, but all the branches were closed. Just my luck that it happened to be 4th of July holiday hours, right? For 48 hours, I had no access to any of my funds. All my savings that I worked for day in, day out were locked away from me. It was grueling. Not because I felt broke. I knew that was temporary. Nah, it was something else. I felt vulnerable suddenly. It was the first time in a while that I had to depend on people. That night I had no change for the subway, and I remember taking a cab all the way home from the train station. When I got home, I knocked on my neighbor's door. You have to understand, I never ask people for anything. I was stranded. The $50 and the tip too all came from my neighbor that night. $50. $50 would have been huge to me growing up. It wasn't the amount though. I could pay him back, no sweat. Chicago me had a salary that could have fed my childhood worries. Heck, I could have provided for my whole dang hometown. No, it was that familiar gleam in my neighbor's eye when I asked him for the money. I reverted to being some gritty, scared 12-year-old begging a man to front me cash. He was used to a professional Emma. We only ever saw one another when I was dressed in my suit for work. That night, I still had my slacks on from the office, but I was wearing them with a shorn tank top. I remember someone's vomit had crusted over my shoulders. But this neighborly man was a regular Ned Flanders, a Mr. Rogers type, but a bit less creepy and less old. His eyes were wide with wonder at first, but then they quickly switched to worry. But the worst of all I saw in his eyes was the welcome. Like I was welcome to ask him for the cash. He was so willing, so apologetic. I wanted to slap him. Like, why, after barely being neighbors for 2 years, did he think I was deserving of his friendship? I didn't even remember his name. The next day, Mr. Rogers brought me coffee and a muffin in the morning. Guess he was privy to the knowledge that the banks would be closed. Joke was just on me. He was so happy and so willing to provide for me. I remember he said, I wasn't sure if you took milk or cream, so I brought both. I take my coffee black. I remember how earnest he looked, but really, he must have been smug. He must have been jotting down favors owed for whenever he'd be in a rut. When I got back around nightfall, he'd left some home-cooked dinner by my door, wrapped in foil, as if I'd eat it up. He wasn't my fucking dad. And whose dad would know how to make such good casserole anyhow? I paid him back later in the week. The banks opened at 8 a.m. and I was there at 7 a.m. sharp. ATM card in hand, like a fucking soldier, armed at the ready. My guard was still up. Still is. There's no 4-digit access pin to get me to calm down. There's no chip to top to get into my heart. So, I smile at Mr. Rogers in the mornings now. Still hasn't come by to gather his reward for that weekend. Still hasn't asked me to blow him for that time I did blow and ended up at his door. Maybe Mr. Rogers is gay. Who knows? I'm waiting for it. They always ask for something in return. Now when I come home though, I try and time my homecoming so that he'll be outside walking his dog. I like to see him when I'm ready, so that he knows I'm a professional. Now I have to prove to him that I'm an adult with a savings account and a decent hold on my life. Because of that one holiday weekend, I button my blouse to the top button, and I straighten my ponytail, and I secure my briefcase every time I come home. Trying to prove to him what I've been trying to prove to myself my whole life.